Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Mech Deck Tech. I know it's been a few weeks since I last posted, but we have a new deck ready to go over. So once again, we're just going through a deck that's in my personal collection. Definitely not the strongest or the best rogue mill deck out there, but it's what I have working for me. So today we have Anowon, the Ruin Thief. He has a couple things going for him. One, he's a rogue lord, so all my other rogues are getting a little beefier with him. He's a mill commander, right? So we're looking to mill out our opponent in addition to doing damage. Rogue's pretty good at being evasive. So we're going to get that mill effect pretty often, if not always. And he also has a little bit of built-in draw. The draw isn't always going to hit. So you kind of want to carefully choose which opponent you're attacking in terms of trying to ensure that damage very specifically is going to be yeah, I'm very likely to mill a creature on them. As always, we're going to go into our enablers first. The enablers kind of let our deck kind of do its thing, make it a little beefier. They're not here to finish out the game, but they're here to kind of just push us more in the direction that we're already trying to go with our commander. Starting us off, we have Marang, River Prowler. He costs 3 for a 2/1, a little expensive, but he can't be blocked. He also can't block, but not super relevant. We really want him here just to kind of punch face every turn. And as long as we control a black or green permanent, we don't have any green, but we do have a fair number of black. We can cast him from our graveyard, right? So recursion's pretty important. We're able to do that with him. The Soaring Thought Thief is up next. He's flashable. Little relevant, right? We could hold up some counter magic if it gets back to our turn during our opponent's end step. We can kind of flash him in. We can also kind of flash him in as a blocker if need be. But as long as one of our opponents has 8 or more cards in their grave, he's a semi-lord. In the sense that he's powering up their power, but not so much their toughness. But he also enhances our mill effect, right? He's not even looking for our rogues to deal damage, just attack. So whenever one or more rogues that control attack, each opponent mills 2 cards. Now this does mean that it doesn't matter how many we're attacking with, each opponent's still only going to mill 2. So it's not like we're milling a ton each round with him, but little bits of chip mill can go a long way. Up next, we have our sure-footed Infiltrator. So Infiltrator's interesting in the sense that he has pseudo-unblockable, right? We have to tap another rogue we control to make him unblockable for the turn. But whenever he deals combat damage to a player, I do get to draw a card. So, am I willing to give up one of my weaker rogues who's kind of just here to be a little buff in order to draw some cards? Yes, I am. And you should be too. I'm actually shocked that he's only 35 cents. I mean, I know that he costs 4 and he's a 2/3, requires a little bit of setup, but I think he's pretty good personally. Following him, we have our Thieving Skydiver. So he's a flying 2/1 for 2, already not bad. Flying gives us a little bit of evasion. The evasion lets us get through a fair number of fields. But more importantly, he has Kicker, and that Kicker lets us steal an artifact. If it's an equipment, we get to equip it directly to Thieving Skydiver. I don't see a ton of equipment in my pods. So more than likely, I'm stealing, some mana rocks, an important artifact that lets me get card draw or double up on effects, things of that nature. But he's great. Moving on from Thieving Skydiver, we have the Vidalcan Infiltrator. Another creature that can't be blocked. It's a rogue. We kind of care about that. I don't actually have a whole lot of artifacts in this deck, which makes it hilarious. It's one of the things I definitely need to work on. So you're not going to see a whole lot of Metalcraft with him. Maybe in combination with Thieving Skydiver, stealing some stuff, I might get Metalcraft off. But it is what it is. He's unblockable. That's really what we care about. The extra damage would be nice, but I'm not, like, overly concerned about it. Following him up, we have another pseudo unblockable. He has to attack alone to do it, but whenever he does, I get to, like, deal a little bit of damage, venture into a dungeon. So it's definitely, like, a little on the slower side, but, you know, unblockable damage, venturing into dungeons. Like, some of the dungeons are pretty powerful, and although it would take me several rounds to, like, complete a dungeon with him, I think it's still pretty good. Not, like, the best rogue, again, like, right? This is one of my way more casual decks. So I'm not out here trying to win, you know, turn 3 or 4 by any means. I'm kind of having fun, just like, oh yeah, having a good old commander game, do a little bit of mill. Zareth San, the Trickster. He kind of also, like, buffs up the Vulcan Infiltrator, potentially, in the sense that, he's again pseudo unblockable. I could kind of, like, almost ninjutsu him out. Like, it's very ninjutsu-esque, right? But whenever he deals combat damage to a player, I get to grab a card from their graveyard and just steal it. Could be an artifact, could be a big old creature, could be, you know, really almost anything. But he's definitely good. He's definitely, like, a nice way to sort of be sneaky about stuff and, like, oh, you thought I was hitting you for 1? No, I'm actually hitting you for 4, and I'm stealing your stuff that's in your grave, and I've been milling you this whole time, so you probably have some, like, decent stuff in there. Moving out of the creatures, we have Mind Crank. I mean, you can't really have a mill deck without including Mind Crank. I mean, you could, but, like, people would be like, even for a casual deck, what are you doing without Mind Crank? So here we go, we have Mind Crank. When an opponent loses life, they mill that many cards. Self-explanatory, I have a lot of unblockable damage, you know, and you'd be surprised how quickly a player can get milled out. You know, even with these 100-card decks, you know, the little bits of chip damage, plus they're drawing cards on their own turn, and, like, you know, you get thin out a deck pretty quickly. Mind Crank's gonna help you out with, like, a little bit extra. We have Rogue Class. So, not exactly mill, kind of like better mill in a sense, right? So, instead of milling, we're exiling the top card of their deck. I get to, you know, look at it as long as it remains exiled. Only I get to look at it because it is face down. I can level it up to give my creatures Menace, which is just more evasion. And if I have some extra mana lying around, I could go ahead and level it up again, and then I can start playing those cards that I've exiled through Rogue Class. So stealing things is great. I don't need to have a powerful deck. My opponents do, so I can steal their shit. Court of the Cunning, right? We're introducing Monarch into the game. Monarch is just a fun, like, mechanic, especially in Commander. We're guaranteeing a little bit of mill each turn. If I'm still Monarch, which, like, hit or miss, it really depends on, like, my kind of field state. But if I am Monarch, right, they're milling 10 cards each instead of 2. So, pretty good. I like it, I like it. Next up we have Drowned Secrets. Whenever I cast a blue spell, a single player is going to mill 2 cards. Casting a lot of blue spells in here, right? Probably going to get, like, 1 or 2 spells cast that way a turn on average. So we're going to see a fair bit of value from this. Following that up, Memory Erosion. So now whenever my opponents cast spells, they're milling themselves. Self-explanatory, right? We're pushing this mill effect. We really want to just mill. Sphinx's Tutelage. Whenever I draw a card, I get to have one opponent mill 2 cards if they are both non-lands and they share a type. Deadly against a mono player, right? The process repeats. And it has a little bit of very expensive built-in card selection in the form of draw a card, discard a card. But I have a lot of other ways to get extra draws in my deck, and also you're just drawing one card naturally each turn, right? So Sphinx's Tutelage, pretty good. I like it. In the same vein, there's Teferi's Tutelage. So this lets me draw a card and discard a card when it enters. Whenever I draw a card, target opponent mills 2. There's not the recursion effect, but like, still pretty good. You know, that's kind of like the sweet spot. That's where I want to be. The last one that it enables is Solve the Equation. This is going to let me search for an instant or sorcery, slap it in my hand, and shuffle. So that kind of works in tandem with some of my finishers, which we'll get to right now. Creature-wise, we only really have one like creature that I would consider to be a finisher, and that's Stormkirk Bloodthief. Beginning of my end step, if an opponent lost life this turn, they probably have, because I have a lot of unblockable creatures. I get to put a +1/+1 counter on target vampire I control. It's Stormkirk Bloodthief, right? So Stormkirk Bloodthief is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to hit for big damage with it. We have ways of making rogues unblockable, all that jazz. It's a good time. But again, this deck is really all about milling. So while Stormkirk is going to allow me to mill a fair bit with Anowon and Mindcrank, what allows me to mill a little faster are cards like Fraying Sandy. So this can be a one-turn kill in combination with another one of the finishers. But also, like, once someone's Sanity is fraying and they're milling, 40 cards a turn, because I'm hitting them for enough damage and I have like a decent setup, they're out of here. They're not sticking around. How am I doing that? Maddening Cacophony, right? Sure, I could pay 2 and mill each opponent for 8, but more likely than not, I'm paying the 6, right? I'm kicking this. It's a lot like, ooh, what's the card I'm thinking of? Something Cyclone. Ooh, I can't think of it. You guys know what I'm talking about, though. Cyclonic Rift. Bam. There we go. Could you play Cyclonic Rift for its non-kicked cost? You could. Are you going to? No, right? You don't not kick Cyclonic Rift. Cyclonic Rift is being kicked. It's happening. So much in the same way, that's what's happening with Maddening Cacophony. We're going to force each opponent to mill half their deck rounded up. If one of those players happens to have Fraying Sanity on them, they just lose. The game is over for them. We also have Tasha's Hideous Laughter. So late game is kind of when you want to play this. But even early on, like if they have like a lot of lands or just generally low CMC, you'd be amazed at how far this is gonna hit, right? It hits each of the opponents, which is great. We want to hit the whole field and not just one player. Each of them are going to go until they've exiled 20 mana worth of value or more. Great way to kind of just, thin them down to the point where they basically have nothing. They're on a clock. And we're good to go. Alright. Moving into ramp, we actually don't have a lot. It's, again, an area where this deck could probably be upgraded a fair bit just by adding more ramp in the form of like mana rocks and like fetch lands and the like. We have Soul Ring. Everyone knows it, kind of a commander staple. We have Evolving Wilds, and that's it, right? The ramp in this deck, kind of trash. But, it is what it is. But we're definitely not done here. We also have some reactions, so let's get our reactions underway. Starting off, we have Whirlwind Denial. This is really great when an opponent is kind of like popping off, and you're doing like, they're chaining some stuff together, and you're just like, cool, You get to do none of that. Unless you're paying for each, right? So it's just like, no. I'm shutting down your whole combo. Get the fluff out of here. Slot Coming is just a counter spell, but you can foretell it if you have a little bit of extra mana. Foretelling it does cost 1 extra overall, but if you have a little bit of extra mana lying around and you're not going to use it, it's kind of 1 cheaper. So I think Solid Coming is pretty decent. We have Neutralize, again, basically a counter spell, only it has the ability to cycle. Negate, nice cheap counter spell, but it's only for non-creature spells. Mystical Dispute, could be cheaper if it's like targeting a blue spell, so like if someone's trying to counter your counter spells, you're like, cool, I'm going to counter that for just a blue pip, otherwise it is 3, and they have to pay 3 to let it go through. Pretty good. We have a classic counter spell, right? So just 2 blue counters a spell. Fantastic. We have the Concerted Defense. Odds are we're paying 1 to counter a non-creature spell. They're going to have to pay 2 to let it go through. So it's a little bit of taxing as opposed to a guarantee this is not happening. So timing might matter, but even like getting them to spend the extra 2 to let their thing go through could be enough to be like, I've stopped you for this turn, your plan isn't happening. Bone to Ash specifically stops creature spells and lets us draw a card. The card draw matters for Sphinx's tutelage, Teferi's tutelage, a couple other cards care about me drawing cards. And moving into our next category, but this is kind of like a bridge, we have Drown in the Lock. So Drown in the Lock is both a reaction in the sense that I can counter a spell with it, and it's a removal spell in the sense that I can, destroy a target creature. We're very quickly going to have a bunch of cards in everyone's graveyard. So, Drown in the Lock is actually just great for this deck. It's gonna hit, right? And it won't take long for us to get the cards in there for it to be able to hit pretty much anything. Let's take a look at the rest of this removal. We have Sudden Edict. This is actually really great against Voltron decks, but it's also just good if, like, a field wipe just happened, or a player only really has, like, 1 creature out, then they're guaranteed to sacrifice that 1 creature that you care about. We don't really get to target the creature itself, but we get to target the player. It can matter. Price of Fame lets us destroy a creature if that creature is legendary, like all commanders are. It costs 2 less, so for 1 and a black, we get to destroy a creature, and we get to surveil 2. We're not looking to put a lot of stuff in our grave, but like, if we're not seeing things that are great, I'm fine with kind of pitching them to the grave. Not like the end of the world here. It's fine. I actually really think that Price of Fame is kind of underpriced. And I know that it's like, oh, at 4 to destroy a creature, kind of a lot. But it's like, yeah, but you're removing commanders, right? This card is designed to remove commanders from decks. It's 35 cents on Card Kingdom, 21 cents over on TCG Player. Like, it's a good card, and I think it's undervalued currently. Power Word Kill, a little restrictive in the sense you're not going to be able to destroy angels, demons, devils, or dragons. But, like, most of the decks I fight aren't built around those themes. Maybe that's just my pod, couldn't say. I think it's good removal. We have classic Murder, right? 3 mana, destroy a creature, simple as that. Leadership Vacuum, right? Removal isn't necessarily destruction, it's just removing it from the board. So target player is going to return all of their commanders from the battlefield to the command zone. Which in some cases is honestly better than removing it, right? If it goes to a grave, they might have a way to play it from the grave. This guarantees that they're paying commander tax. Also, you get to draw a card, which again for this deck kind of matters. There's a couple cards that care about me drawing cards. We have Heartless Act, so we're going to destroy a creature that has no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from a target creature. I like the fact that it has a couple different modes to it. 9 times out of 10, we're probably just destroying a creature that doesn't have counters on it, which is going to be most creatures on the field. There are some decks that care about creatures having counters. And there are definitely some creatures that, like, them having counters affects that player's entire field. So the ability to remove 3 of those counters could be pretty viable. Eliminate, we're just gonna lob a little small creature, planeswalker. But sometimes the small ones have good ongoing effects. So good early, decent late game. Great way to destroy any kind of token creatures. So if they're running a token generation deck, it's just like, cool, I'm gonna blow up your fucking token, get the fuck out of here. Cast Down is kind of like the opposite of Price of Fame in the sense that it's specifically gonna get rid of a non-legendary creature. But for 2, I think it's still pretty good. We have Crippling Fear is like basically our only board wipe. I need to run more board wipes in my decks. I'm well aware of it. But for this, it's like, oh, cool, I'm going to declare rogues. Literally all of my creatures are rogues. If you're not a rogue and you have less than 3 toughness, get out of here. And even if it doesn't completely wipe the field, it definitely opens up the field for my attacks, right? All of their creatures are now -3/-3 until end of turn. So my rogues have a better chance at living through the attack, and their creatures are less inclined to block because they have been reduced and they might die now from the damage that my rogues are dealing. Epic Downfall lets us exile a creature. Has to be a big old boy, but exiling big old boys is great. Most decks don't really have a way of getting them back, so we love that. Moving on to card draw, because again this deck cares about card draw a fair bit. Letting us draw cards allows us to have a little bit of card selection, allows us to, you know, trigger a lot of our mill effects off of drawing cards. We're going to start off with Into the Story here. Very quickly we're going to hit that, you know, 7 or more cards in a graveyard for an opponent. So we're only going to pay 4, we're going to draw 4. Pay 4, draw 4. Worth it each and every time. We can do it at instant speed. So even if we have 7 cards in hand, including Into the Story, we pass, you know, we end our turn, it comes back around right before it gets back to us. You know, we were able to potentially bluff that we had counterspell level magic in our hand. We're paying 4, we're drawing 4, so now we have 12. We're casting the spell, so we have 10 cards in hand, plus the one we're drawing, so we're back up to 11. You know, we're digging through this stack. Cards like Greed are repeatable card draw. It does cost 2 life and a black pip to do it, but, you know, we're willing to dig deep in this deck. I think Greed's great. Another cheapie, shockingly enough. It's like a 50-cent card, a little cheaper on TCG. But card draw is great. So my Thief here gets a little bit bigger every time we cast it on creature spell during the turn. And when it deals combat damage, when you get to draw a card, we have ways of making this Thief unblockable. We do have Rogue's Path in here, or Rogue's Passage. Rogue's Passage in the deck. You know, is it worth it to pay 4 to deal, I think, what was it, 1 damage? Yeah, 1 damage and draw a card? Maybe. Kind of depends. But card draw is great. I'm willing to pay for it. Merfolk Windrobber is great early game in the sense that it costs 1 to play, comes out whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they have to mill a card. And, you know, late game, if I have to like lead him up as like a chump blocker or something like that, I could block before damage is dealt, sack him, draw a card. We're definitely going to hit that 8 cards in their graveyard pretty early. Morbid Opportunist is great. It's only going to trigger once a turn, and only if another creature died. But we don't have to be the cause of that death, right? And I think that's important. Our opponents are going to be killing each other's creatures anyways, and granted that might put a target on Morbid Opportunist just so I'm not drawing cards. But, I still think it's pretty good. We have Rankle, Master of Pranks. He's a flying hasty boy, so like, again, he's probably going to deal a lot of damage, because like, you know, without flying or reach, not a whole lot you can do about any flying creatures. If I've already played out my hand, I'm fine with like each player discarding a card. Each player losing 1 life and drawing a card is pretty good. Each player sacrificing a creature. I'm probably not choosing a whole lot because this is not a go wide deck. I know there are cards that can do with Rankle, Master of Pranks that makes it really good. Now they will resolve in the order that you choose, right? So I can't be like, oh, we're all going to draw a card, lose a life, and then we're all going to discard a card. No, right? They happen in the order that they're printed. But repeatable card draw is good for this deck because I'm also, again, milling people with my card draw. Shielded Aether Thief. Right, like, he's definitely something that I could take out and I wouldn't feel bad about doing so. I do have a couple Rogue Lords in here. I would like to find maybe some more to put in the deck at some point. He kind of works off the energy mechanics. Whenever he blocks, I get an energy. I can pay 3 energy and tap him to draw a card. Is it slow? Yes, unbearably. Should he be in the deck? I don't know. Kind of hard to say. But he is here for now, so we have that going for us. Our commander potentially lets us draw, so that's cool. Chart of Course is guaranteed draw. Weight of Memory. We're gonna draw 3 cards and mill someone else for 3. But that's basically the gist of the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of things I could do to improve it, like fixing the mana base some, adding some more mana rocks to kind of get it going a little faster. Getting some more tutors in the deck, because currently Solve the Equation is basically the only tutor in here. I don't run proxies in my deck. Nothing against proxies, right? I've been told that Commander is very, like, understanding community and Magic's expensive, so we tend to allow proxies. I just don't happen to run any. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck. I wish you luck on your builds. If you want to join my Discord, there'll be a link down below. We're trying to build up a community to play, you know, Magic via spell table and even just like discuss Magic. I kind of want to get back into designing my personal card game. So I'll post updates in there about it. But until next time, guys, you know, good luck with those builds. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. I might do a Goldfish video for this deck next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And that's about it. Alright, guys, have a good one.